Thinking of going self-employed in 2021? Well, watch on. As a business accountant, my team and I spend all day long helping business owners on their journey. And one of the things we get really excited about is working with startups and helping them start that journey. So in this video, I want to talk about how to get set up as a sole trader, both from the actual things you need to do with the tax people. So, registering for a tax return, those kind of things. And then as towards the end of the video, I want to talk to you about some of the practical things like insurance, bank accounts, and the like. Now, this video proved popular in 2020. So this is the 2021 edition, and we've updated it with some additional material to keep it fresh. What I would say is if you're starting off though in the self-employed world, be sure to check out the range of YouTube videos we've got out there to help you with other areas of your tax, business and accounting knowledge. And if you do like those type of videos, make sure to click the subscribe button below so you get notified whenever we release more just like it. So where to start? Well, in order to get on that self-employed journey, the first thing you've got to do is basically decide today's the day I'm going self-employed. Now, if you're going to go self-employed, that's it. You make the decision. That's basically it to begin with, to get going. You might look at some of the practicals and think I've got to get some website done maybe, or I've got to get my business cards, whatever you think is the next steps. But actually from an overall decision, you've just got to make that decision. What follows on from that is you've then got to go and tell the tax people about it. Now, they used to give you a limit. They used to say, tell us within 3 months or something like that. But these days they just say as soon as possible. And actually there are other videos on the YouTube channel where we talk about the time limits for tax returns and things like that. But if you just think, look, do you know what? That when I'm going to start going self-employed, I'm going to go and tell the tax people that I am self-employed. There are times where you might not actually need a tax return. If you look at a video that we've done talking about the £1,000 trading allowance, if you've got a very small amount of income to declare, you don't actually need to do a tax return. But I still think it's best practice to register, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. Now, it's very common to want to do some self-employment or a side hustle, as it's known, alongside your main job, especially during the last year. We've had the pandemic, everything else. There's been a lot of people starting side businesses up to kind of supplement their income. So it is quite normal, and it's also quite normal then to kind of do that transition from being self-employed. And if it does work and it does take off, you might eventually run down your hours at work or just cut it all off and go full-time in your business. I remember doing it myself many years ago, and that's a very natural transition we see owners working with all the time. And again, as people then get more profitable and things like that, they might end up transitioning into a limited company. But right at the start of the journey, you're going to want to register with the tax people. So let's get on and have a look at how to do that. So this is the main page that you'll see, and as you can see here, there's a 4-step process from the revenue's point of view of checking that everything's okay. The first one is to make sure that self-employment's right for you, and this talks a little bit about making sure that you're actually comfy. You are self-employed as a true self-employed person. You're not actually pseudo-employed, and that's really important for things like holiday pay. Obviously, you don't get any of these employment benefits when you're self-employed, so just make sure that is correctly what you're going to be doing. So, for example, if you're thinking of setting yourself up as a barber tomorrow, you are a self-employed barber. You carry all the risks and rewards of doing that. The next step is to choose what trade name you trade under. Now, we talk to clients a lot about this. People get overly concerned, and it's important to have an idea, both from a business point of view. You want to have a name and a brand, and make sure, do your due diligence, make sure you've typed it in Google and the other results don't come up. We've seen it a few times where people have traded under other names by mistake. So definitely just check that out, that nobody else is doing exactly what you want to do. But ultimately, it's not that important, because at a later date, you can change it. As far as the tax man's concerned, from a tax registration point of view, you're you. It's you get the unique tax reference. So if you then decide to go and do something completely different name, it doesn't matter. You're going to use the same number. You just fill out a new set of pages in your tax return each year with the different details on. So, but for now, I think it's a good stage to decide what you're going to do and what you're going to trade as. And there is a little link there that shows you some guidance on the use of names, what you can and can't do. The records bit we're going to come back to in a minute, but it's very important to keep the right amount of records. You're going to need a record of what you're getting in and what you're spending out, and that's key. With limited companies, it can be more complicated, but for you as a sole trader right now, ins and outs, just think ins and outs all the time. But we will come back to that in a minute. So then step 4, which is the important bit and really why we're here, and that is to register for a tax return and your national insurance. As you can see, there is a link there, so that if you haven't got a national insurance number because you've come into the country or something similar, you can go and do that separately on there. But the main bit we're here for is that bottom link. So you've done the whole page to get to the near this bottom link, and that's register for self-assessment, and that's the box you're going to need to go to. You can see a little bit further down, there's mention of VAT, but for now, don't worry about VAT. We'll talk about a little bit at the end of the video about that, but the important thing for now is you just need a tax return. So click on this link and it takes you to this screen. And there's a few options on here because what they don't want you doing is re-registering if you've already registered a while ago. So if you've already got a unique tax reference, a UTR, there's one box. If you haven't, there's another link. So the piece I'm highlighting here is the bit you want. If you're fresh, you're new, you haven't sent a tax return before, is this bit. If you have sent one, there's a link for you as well to click that and it takes you through to a different form because sometimes it might have gone inactive or it's been so long but you're still on the system somewhere, so there's a way of reactivating that. And then you can see here, this is the actual bit you need, the register online link. So you click there and it takes you through to another form. And this is where we start, by entering your email address. Now I'm not going to do the process here because I'm going to need to enter a lot of personal details and guess what, I'm already registered. But for you would follow the boxes and go through the stages. They're not too complicated, and the main thing with that is it's going to set you up with an online account. Now what's so important about that account is that if you're going to be doing your own tax return and you're not going to be using an accountant, that's your entry, that's the way you get on and do those tax returns, and it houses another load of information as well for you in there. So definitely sort that out. What you will see is you'll get an actual paper letter that comes through to you in around the next 10 working days. If you are watching this during the middle of the coronavirus lockdown, who knows how long that's going to take, but generally the next 10 sort of days it appears on paper with a little number that you'll need as an activation code, and you'll be prompted for that the first time you sign in, and that gets you going, and then you've got an online account and you're ready to go. So that's it as far as what you need to do to register for a tax return and tell the tax people that you are self-employed. And as I say, it's really important to do, especially in the area of making sure your pension record's up to date and all that kind of stuff. So do keep those sign-in details safe because you will need them. Or if you use an accountant to help you with that tax return, you're going to need a UTR number, that tax reference they give you. So really do keep those a couple of things safe, whether you're doing it or whether somebody else is doing it for you. Now, the next thing to talk about is records. Records is so key. If you've heard me talk about this on any subject, I'm going to tell you the number one thing to do to reduce your tax bill is to keep good records. And the reason for that is we've got a very complex amount of tax law behind us, and there's a lot of things to navigate, but ultimately you're going to need records to back up any tax deductions that you've got, and it's best practice to keep those in a digital way. Now, there's another video and plenty of videos we've done on the YouTube channel talking about whether you need accounting software, and the answer is when you first start off as a sole trader, yes, it's a good idea. No, it's not currently essential, but keeping some sort of digital records will become essential further down the line under what the Revenue and Customs are calling their making tax digital plans. So even if it's a spreadsheet or something like that, we currently believe that that's still going to be a thing that you can do. Make sure you keep it. And all we're talking about at this point, is literally a spreadsheet with a column for, stationery, materials, accountants, software subscriptions, those kind of things. And you're just putting dates and amounts into all those different columns. And that's going to help you when it comes to preparing your tax return. Or if you're working with an accountant, they're going to want to see those records and that breakdown so they can make sure they're not missing anything. And that's a key part of where an accountant helps generally, is they look at those things and say, what are we missing? Have we got, travel? Have we got using your home as an office? Have we got these other things that you might not know about? So in keeping good records allows somebody to do that. Or if you're doing it yourself and you fancy yourself as a pretty good tax type person, then you're also going to be able to spot potential opportunities where you're missing things as well. So do keep really good records. And of course, make sure you keep those records safe because you're going to have to keep them for many years just in case you are unlucky enough to get a HMRC tax investigation. So let's talk some practical issues. I did say I'd talk about those, and I think actually in a lot of ways they're more important to this video. And the first one of those would be, how do you physically get paid? So let's talk about bank accounts. People often say, do I need a business bank account for my business? And the answer to that question is no, not legally. There's nothing legally that says that you need a business bank account, and certainly not a technical business account. Banks will say that you generally, under their terms and conditions, you shouldn't trade out of a personal account. So therefore they'd want you to have a business account. And the reason for that is, of course, they get more fees and money for it. They will charge you to pay money in generally. However, the online landscape is changing some of this. But what I think is a really good thing from a tax point of view and a clean records is definitely it's best practice to have a separate account to put your income in and your outgoings out of. So if you're starting a new business, go and get yourself a new bank account. That's absolutely top of the list thing for me to go and do, and then it just keeps it nice and separate. If you're unlucky enough to have that HMRC investigation, you can just give them that bank account. It's all lovely and clean, and it really helps you keep your records. If you use an accounting software, you can link that bank account to your accounting software so your transactions come through every day. Beautiful, makes it much, much quicker. So definitely do that. If you imagine if you linked your personal account to some accounting software, you'd have all your personal items to kind of get rid of out of the system, and it just gets really, really messy. So do get yourself a bank account. One thing we've seen during the pandemic is bricks and mortar ones have been struggling to open business accounts. Starling Bank particularly, and this isn't, there are other banks available, but Starling particularly has been very successful with a lot of our clients. So do check those out as well. They're online banks, but of course they were geared up to open bank accounts on a remote basis. So that really helped people get that done done and done efficiently. And of course, if you're working with accountants, they're going to love you for having that separate bank account. There's something worse than somebody turning up and saying, here's my records, and it's just full of pages and pages of transactions of, Mackie D's and whatever they've eaten out and things like that to clear through. So yeah, definitely do that and you'll be absolutely top of their list of favorite clients. So then you've got somewhere then to get paid into. How do you go around getting paid? Well, quite often it depends on the type of business. If you're a service-based business, let's say you've started up a marketing consultancy or a web-based design agency or something like that, you're likely going to invoice. You're going to send somebody an invoice and say, please pay me, and here's the amount, and this is what I did for you on this date. Now, all of that can be knocked up quite simply on an Excel or a Word template. But if you're in accounting software like a Xero or a QuickBooks or something like that, they have templates in there. They're really easy to get going. You can email straight from the program. It's all logged inside that one sort of document and one app, and it's fantastic. It also stops mistakes like you recreating the invoice and forgetting to change the invoice number or something like that. So again, there's another benefit. If you're going to invoice, I would definitely suggest getting yourself a QuickBooks or a Xero or one of these pieces of software. Then it's just having a look at how best do I get paid. Obviously, somebody could pay you cash. You almost don't want it because it's pain to actually go and put it in the bank and keep records of it and stuff like that, but you could do. People can pay you direct into your business bank account. Another reason to have a separate bank account number. You might feel more comfy giving those details out. But ultimately, the other ways of getting paid, you've got Stripe, PayPal, some of these online type card setups. You've got Go Cardless. So if you're looking to take direct debits, Go Cardless is amazing for what it does. You can just get people to sign up to those. So if you've got regular reoccurring income, it's amazing. We've seen some great businesses use that, personal trainers, people with, constant subscriptions. It's a really good thing to look at. Now, on top of that, if you're taking card payments, you've also got those little mobile readers. They can cost, 20 odd quid. Sometimes they're even free to have one of these mobile readers that connects to your phone, and you can take people's debit card payments. And yeah, they take a fee, but would you rather have the money? Yes, you absolutely would rather have the money than be waiting for it all the time. So check those out. Make sure you get those kind of payment methods. And studies have shown there's a massive impact to having those faster payment methods. So do go out and invest early in getting those sorted. And then the third practical point, before I talk very briefly about you getting paid, actually physically taking your money, is to make sure, consider, do you need insurance? It's one of those things. I'm not an insurance broker. We've done a podcast on it before where we've talked to an insurance broker about what you might need, but it is worth considering. And the reason I mention it, even though it's not really a tax thing, is it's a practical point that people overlook a lot. We see a lot of owners, and you would get a tax deduction on business insurance, is we see them not having it, and obviously there's a potential liability issue there depending on what you're doing. So do check, and if you've never had that kind of thing before, look for a commercial insurance broker. Don't necessarily go straight to online and start searching, because it would be interesting to have that more sort of detailed conversation with somebody about what you might actually need or actually not need. So do look at that. If you've never done it before, commercial insurance brokers, they're the kind of people that you want to speak to. So then finally, let's talk, you want to get paid surely yourself to make sure you can have some money. Well, I'm actually going to say to you, check out our other video on that, but we did do a video on paying yourself. It is not complicated, but there are some key things to point out. So go check that video out straight after this one. So that's it. So if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to click the subscribe button below and you get notified whenever we release more. Share it with other people that you think need to know this info, and we'll see you in the next one.